Juvenile court. Juvenile court. And they have a PowerPoint. Juvenile court does have a PowerPoint.
Good evening, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Adam Haney. I'm one of the 2 juvenile court judges here in Baton Rouge.
Good evening, Gail Grover, Juvenile Court Judge, Division B.
And Lynn Malloy, I'm the Judicial Administrator for Juvenile Court. Good evening. So, Juvenile Court, we are one of 4 juvenile courts in the state, and we have exclusive jurisdiction over juveniles that are alleged to be delinquent, abandoned, neglected, or otherwise in need of supervision or care. The statutory requirements for juvenile court to ensure the constitutionality and the safety of the community and the children that are before the court in need of care really mandate that the court operate with the sufficient staff in order to make sure court is functioning on a timely basis. If those timelines aren't met, that could be someone's constitutional right, or that could be a child who's in need of care based on an abuse or neglect allegation. So that's why it's extremely critical for juvenile court to be funded properly. The first slide, we show here the amount of our budget request was almost $9 million. The mayor's proposed budget is 1.56. That's a difference of $331,000. Now, that's an 11% decrease over what the mayor proposed last year for the court, but in actuality, it's 14.6% reduction from what we are currently funded. That was after the council budget hearings last year, where we were put back to what our request was, which was still a 1% decrease over the prior year. Our judicial expense fund is another source of funding for the court, but it's very limited on what we can generate revenue from. It cannot provide for the deficiency that this budget is giving us. And we rely on the clerk of court to provide some staffing for the juvenile court building as well. We don't know how that's any kind of budget proposal is going to affect us in regard to the staffing we get from them. And then we continue to argue that we aren't sufficiently staffed or sufficiently funded as we are now, even with the request we made. Next slide. If we were to have to absorb the cut that's proposed, this is what we would have to do, and it does not even cover everything of the cut. We could not fill, we only have 18 positions with the court that are funded by city parish. We have 2 vacancies that would not be able to be filled. We would have to lay off at least 2 of our 16 remaining positions. We could not provide any annual merits each year. We'd have to eliminate programs that we believe are critical to the court. One is the Project Made Truancy Initiative, and that handles truancy matters that are a precursor to delinquent behavior that's even more serious. And I'm sure Judge Grover could probably talk even more about that program. If we had to absorb more expenses from our judicial expense fund, we couldn't do some of the positive things like our Adoption Day program, which celebrates adoptions and brings awareness for the foster children in the community that need adoption. We could not provide funding for our traffic referee, who has been an attorney offering these services pro bono, who really wants to get paid. And so we could not provide funding for that. We would have to reduce some of our contractual services, which pretty much everything in our budget for contractual services, there's no way to cut that. The computer services, the computer support and maintenance, we all know how those increase every year. Those have to be paid for. Any programming costs on top of that to increase our efficiencies, we would not be able to do. And that would still leave us over $20,000 short of what we need to operate with the budget that's been proposed by the mayor. So even with all of that, we still could not meet what is proposed for our budget. And laying off any more than what I suggested there we actually could not operate, in my opinion. We would not have the staff. If an employee called in, which you're always going to have an employee call in with sick, vacation, what have you, we would not be able to operate. So the costs, our existing funding, we suggest is not sufficient. The mandated costs that the court has to pay each year, interpreter fees, transcripts, sanity commission evaluations, those are, we cannot predict what that is going to be each year, but they are increasing every year, those costs. And that's mandated by statute that the court has to pay those. They are not charged to any of the parties. Additional funding, as I mentioned before, for our traffic hearing officer. And we would actually like another position in the court, but we have yet to ask for that, trying to keep in line with what has been requested of us. And when we talk about revenue generation for the court, other than the city parish funding, we do receive some grant funding. We have been granted some opioid abatement settlement funds, but all of that is strict to that program. We cannot use it for our general operations. The only revenue we're able to generate is, and now these numbers may blow you away, I know how large they are here. Traffic fines, we estimate about $34,000. Civil fees from the clerk's office, $2,500. Bond registry fees, $5,000. Our interest income from the bank accounts, $2,300. And vending machine revenues, that's estimating $45,000.
I want to jump in here. We are the only people here talking about our vending machine money. Right? But realistically, that's how important every single dollar is to us, is that we track and we know when our vending machines go down, we're like, we need to get them back up because we're going to use this money, right? And so for everyone here, I think I'm not going to take, Lynn needs to finish here, but like, since I've been here 10 years, right, the juvenile court has been the greatest stewards of the public fund of any public agency that I have encountered here, right? We don't ask for anything, right? And in exchange, we don't get anything. And so we have been operating on a shoestring budget, have been underfunded for the 11 years that I've been on the bench, and for the 18 years that the court was in existence before that. And so this is real, and need everybody to understand that when you've got a governmental, an essential constitutional office that is responsible for the youth of our community, the future, right? We are responsible for the future of East Baton Rouge Parish, and I'm sitting here talking to you guys about that $1,400 in vending machine money is important to our budget, right? Like, everybody here needs to take a step back and question, what are we doing? All right, so that I always want to point that out, because nobody else here, none of the other people that were up here, they couldn't tell you how much money their vending machines bring in, right? But like this is the level of detail that we're bringing to this, and how important it is, and how much of stewards of the public money we have been. We have been trying to squeeze blood out of every stone, every turn of everything, and there is none left. Like there is no meat left on this bone, right? If we take this cut, we're cutting bone, and we need to understand that if we're cutting bone, right, that means reduced services. That means that based on the timelines that we've got, we're going to have youth be released to the community that maybe shouldn't be released to the community. We're going to have children that are subject to abuse and neglect, that are not receiving the services they need, that are not protected in the way that they need, right? Simply because the court will not be able to function on the timelines that are required by the state. And so we're just going to have to say, we can't do it. This case is done with because it was not able to be done timely. And that's certainly not anything that anybody wants. I'm sorry, Lynn. The vending machine money gets me upset. So,
and just to continue on a little bit, our judicial expense fund is where we get the revenue. We're projecting about $45,000 for this year. $38,000 of that is already budgeted for everything, so that doesn't leave any surplus at all to give to our general fund budget. And the next slide goes into what our judicial expense fund pays for. So the statute does say the The quarters and the necessary operating expenses of the court is to be borne by the local governing body of the parish, but we supplement with our judicial expense fund. And so we supplement and purchase additional supplies, equipment, our out-of-state service fees, transcript costs, very little travel and training, maybe $2,000 or $3,000 is the most we ever usually spend on that. And a good bit of that is our certified court reporters are required to have continuing education every year. So that is a mandate. Printing, posting, job postings, and special programs. And that's it that comes from our judicial expense fund. The last slide just talks about our ongoing challenges that we bring before the council every year. That's the increased costs that I mentioned before with interpreters, transcripts, sanity commissions. Our banking service fees keep going up, the increasing costs of our computer software maintenance. Those are our challenges that we're facing. The court reporters, difficulty in recruiting, especially with the low pay that we have to provide. And again, we've talked before about our facility, our parking lot, and all of our security and safety needs due to the lack of proper facility. So that sums that up.
With this cut, there would be two programs that we would have to turn loose that have finally got up and is running. One is the truancy mentoring program. And so that program will go away. And we know that truancy has been something that this parish has been trying to deal with for a great period of time. And in fact, our truancy court statewide draws attention all the time. As a matter of fact, we had a site visit from Jefferson Parish just last week. And as they walked through and visit and saw how we operate our truancy, they were already talking about how they could implement and how they can take it even further. They were embarrassed for us because of how we had to operate to make it happen. But we were determined to make it happen, and we are getting the recognition that truancy across our state can be addressed, while we, in essence, will be left behind. The other program just recently stood up is our gun intervention program, Chances, in order to take those young people who have gun charges that are nonviolent, misdemeanor, but to keep them from escalating from just carrying guns to using guns towards people. We just graduated our first cohort, and we were in jeopardy of not being able to start a second cohort, although we know it works. So my question to the council before I take my seat is, how do we receive voluntary personal contributions? Because I refuse to let either go. But I want to make sure that I am in order. So if I need finance or someone else to tell us, how do we make the contribution to make sure that our kids continue to get what they're supposed to have, whether this city parish provides it as a collective or whether the judges who serve this parish, this state, will have to foot it. I'll close with this, probably because I'm such a juvenile youth person. I cannot remember who I can attribute this to, but there's a folklore saying about the Maasai group from Africa, a strong fighting tribe. And when they greet each other, they never leave a conversation without saying, "And how are the children?" Whether they are a warrior, a cook, a grandma, they're not talking about how are their individual children, but how are the children of the tribe. Understanding no matter how many wars we win, how many great things we do within our own home, if our children are not well, our community is not well. And so we as a parish need to ask ourselves, and how are the children? vending machine strong. Thank you. Questions?
Councilman Moak.
Yeah, just for me, because I've asked this question several times before, define truancy.
Truancy by statute, under revised statute 17233, is when a child misses more than 5 unexcused absences or tardies within a semester. Then they are classified truant. But it is also under the Children's Code 730, subparagraph 1, that indicates that a child is truant also if they are habitually and regularly violating school rules. Either one of those can be defined as truant.
Okay, so it's either not attending or violating school rules.
On a habitual manner, yes.
Okay, and how much is the truancy program that you spoke about, just that, how much is that program itself estimated to cost?
Then what are our truancy program, the mentoring program that goes alongside the truancy is what the court has developed. And so the truancy court itself is that I dedicated 2 days as a pilot for the court, 2 full days out of each month to handle only truancy cases, and they can be anywhere from 30 to 50 cases on each docket. And so we hear those in collaboration with the child welfare and attendance and the truancy staff and any community partner that is providing services. We know that that is a societal problem, so we needed a way to bring community in, and the mentoring program does that, and that is about $44,000.
$44,000 a year
Yes.
to do the truancy court
Yes.
twice a week. Is that right?
We do it twice, 2 full dockets twice a month, but the mentors
full
then
dockets
are
twice a month.
assigned. Yes.
And even the mentor program, about $44,000 a year.
Yes.
And with this budget recommendation that we have now, that's, according to y'all's estimate, that's one of the items that could be on the chopping block.
That will be an
That
item
will
that
be
is
an
on,
item on the chopping block.
at least partially, because I'm going to see to it that we do something to continue that
Understood,
effort.
understood. How much does the school system input into your court?
The school system facilitates truancy. They don't answer your question directly. They don't give the court any money, but they are supportive resource.
They don't have any funding out of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board into your court
Not
or juvenile
through
services.
their staff. So I don't want to, their staff under child welfare and
A line
attendance.
item budget.
No, we are not a line item budget out of the school system budget.
But truancy is directly related to attendance in school and/or repeated violations of schools.
Yes, the statute requires that the school system, child welfare and attendance supervisors refer those cases to the court. That is statutory, that those cases have to be referred to the court or to the FENS officer, FENS program, and so that is how they come in. There is no mandate that they fund those referrals.
I totally understand that. But again, we're dealing with a school system function, and I know truancy affects the parish and people doing different, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it that it, you know, kids out, they're out doing other stuff and it'll affect or whatever. But as an assistance in these times of needs, I hate for you, the judges, which are already not making what you should be making to try and fund this, when a possible another revenue source to at least $44,000 a year or possibly more to enhance the program if need to be, a year, we have another governmental body, elected body, that might could help out.
Well, we actually have 5 because this court is a constitutional court, and so just today I did a case from Central School System. So we get cases from Baker, Zachary, St. George, as well as Baton Rouge.
And again, I am perfectly fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, you know, looking at as far as parish-wide agencies.
Yes.
Again, like everybody else looks at stuff, and, you know, apologize for not mentioning all the rest of the municipalities, but you're right. You know, we're talking 44,000, I would think, between
5, that would just,
5
15.
municipalities. Let's see what we can do for you as far as, I mean, 80% of my district is a whole nother city. And if they're not handling their own truancy or whatever, and we're have to handle it as a parish, I'd be more than happy to talk to them. I wish I could tell you that, you know, we're going to finish this budget talk and everything, and I know you're very passionate about this. I can tell both of y'all. You bring up the vending machine stuff, but it's 44,000. I think we can assist in looking without y'all having to pay for some kind of program like that yourself.
Well, let us know where we can meet you with those parishes, and we'll be there. That's for sure.
Can I just want to interject real quick. I want to thank my colleague, Councilman Moak, for being creative and looking for other ways to fund it. I want to tip my hat to Judge Grover for reinforcing the fact that we don't just have one school system here in the parish. And I think his spirit and what he was trying to do was honest and sincere,
Yes.
but we see this across the board. Everybody's dependent on the city of Baton Rouge, you know, directly or indirectly. And we have to recognize that there are other municipalities, other cities, and other school districts, Central, Zachary, Baker, and the proposed St. George. Now, I hope it fails at the ballot box, but we have to enter these conversations not just thinking about sucking the blood from the city of Baton Rouge.
Is there anyone else? This is probably an uninformed question. Does every parish have a juvenile court? No, okay.
No. As Lynn was saying, there are 4 of the statutorily established juvenile courts: Orlean, Jefferson, Caddo, and EBR.
Sorry, I missed that.
No
Thank
worries,
you.
no
Thank you
worries.
for clarifying that. Councilwoman Coleman.
Thank you all so very much, and they do an excellent job with that truancy. And yes, the child welfare and attendance folk are there, and it may be court all day. And we appreciate you all and grateful for the point that Councilman Dunn made, and which was two things here, and that is constitutional offices and all of these other entities. I perceive that that's the issue for everybody that have come up here and kind of given their report so far. So if everybody pay their part, then there will not be so much of a struggle here. That's one point that I'd like to make. The other point is I'm grateful for our legislators. Grateful for them to be in the House to hear what's going on and us not be operating in silos, because we all are responsible for the same people. And so that means the work that you all are doing, you know, some do the work and some do the paying.